we running? Great, thank you. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the Finance Committee meeting for the Seymour Board of Education. If we could all please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comment for the Finance Committee meeting? Any public comment? Going one more time. Any public comment for the Finance Committee meeting? Hearing none, we will move into discussion and possible action, and we will review the financial management summary for the month ending October 31st. And at this time, I will turn it over to Dave.
Thank you so much. It's hard when you can't smile under a mask, but it's really nice to see you both. Everybody tonight. I am pleased because we finally did what we said we were going to do, is encumbered all the payroll. We've been talking about it for a month, and we did it. And the good news there is if you look at certified and non-certified staff, we were almost spot on.
Great.
On the budgeting side. So you're within 0.06% on certified staff and 0.02% on non-certified. So there's no big, and again, that's your biggest component of your budget. That's 16 million plus, let's see, 21 million out of a $35 million budget. So that being on is really, really important. And that's good. So great. Then I got a little bit of not surprising news, but the news that we've been expecting, which is employee benefits. We've talked a lot about that running hot. I think that's the term we used, but it is definitely higher than anticipated based on when the budget was put together. What I can tell you is I believe this number will come down as the year progresses. You have employee contributions that will come into that. We did fully encumber everything, and when I talk about everything, there is some detail behind the high level. But when you look at employee benefits, there's Social Security, life insurance, pension contributions, tuition reimbursement, unemployment compensation. So we fully encumbered things like unemployment compensation at a budgeted amount of $20,000. Now, we haven't had any payments this year for that. So as the year progresses, you will have some savings there. So this is kind of a worst case scenario. But I wanted you to see at least where it could end up. Again, we've been talking about the specific line item, health insurance, and that number it's about 17% off. So it's substantial, and you just need to be aware of it. It is not something that will blow up your budget, but it's something that needs to be watched.
And go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
You mentioned employee contributions to benefits. So how are you accounting for the quote unquote revenue coming in?
So what ends up happening is it's actually pretty simple. You have a payment that goes out to the health insurance company every month, but then there's employee contributions every month or every bi-weekly, 20 times a year that come in, and when those come in, it decreases the expenditure. So it's actually an inverse revenue, or a reverse expense, I guess is the better way to say it. You don't technically have revenues on the Board of Ed side. So what I'm saying is when an employee makes a contribution towards the employee contribution of the health insurance, it will decrease your expenditure as a Board of Education. So that's what I meant by that.
So when you did the encumbrance, did you account for employee contributions?
No.
That was my question.
And did we follow up with the town and see if they are running as hot as we are? Because I know we both used the same estimated health insurance increase. At least I believe we did during the budget process.
You're absolutely right, and I did not.
Okay.
But we can't.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Ed, any questions on the benefits line?
No.
Okay.
Okay. So kind of moving down, everything else is as expected until we get down to tuition. And tuition is really outplaced tuition. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit because that number is a little misleading because there's some extra revenue that's not accounted for. I just want to highlight that today. So just kind of working through this, professional services, we spent about, or encumbered about half of what's out there. Infrastructure services, again, there's 224, it's still available. Transportation's a little over, but I anticipate that, again, coming down because there's certain routes that aren't being run, and we'll get a credit back for those routes. So that's, it's fully encumbered based on what the contract was,
Okay.
not what we're actually gonna be paying for.
Okay,
So that'll come back in a good direction. Insurance has actually been paid, so that is your year-end number. It looks like they just carried forward the prior year insurance number without any adjustments to the rate when they built the budget. That's just an assumption I'm making, which is why you're a little bit off there. But again, $26,000 isn't enough to have a significant impact on your budget, but it is worth noting. So getting down to tuition, and there's two components to this. One, when the budget was adopted, there was a little under $200,000 that was reduced in general from the budget, and we talked about this a month or two ago. And that was just taken out of the tuition line in general because that line has a lot of variation. So we started a little bit under what we anticipated even budgeting for. When I said there's a little bit of good news, the little bit of good news is this number does not include the excess cost grant. Again, we don't know what that number is going to be yet. I can tell you right now that there's been some expensive outplacements, and we're not going to get into the details of those tonight, but that's what's driving this number. And this is one of those things where you can snap a line when you do the budget and estimate what you think it's going to be, but a kid, one or two in or out either direction will really move it. So just to let you know, this is a legitimate, concern, something to watch. But again, you're going to get some excess cost money that will cover a good chunk of this, but I anticipate some more outplacements.
Through the chair. So what does the encumbrance represent then?
The encumbrance represents everything to date, but we know that there's some in the pipe. And I guess that's a good way to say it, meaning that we know what the outplacements are right now, and that's what the encumbrance represents of the contracts issued, but we know there's going to be some additional ones.
can we follow up on that with Dr. Boyle in a regular ed meeting? Thank you.
And then kind of working down the rest, travel's in line, adult ed's in line. Supplies, actually you haven't spent all of your budget at this point. That's one of those lines that we can start to really squeeze as the year goes on. As things aren't purchased and we get later in the year, we can start to have conversations with the administration about what's really necessary or not. So that money hasn't been spent yet, and that is an area that we can focus on.
What line are you specifically referring to?
Supplies, 610 to 690. These are typically instructional supplies.
Right, there's not that much there though. So,
Well, there's
yeah.
624,000 that's still unspent.
Yeah, but, that also includes electricity and heating and fuel and bus, and I'm surprised there's no encumbrance there.
You're exactly right. But there is electricity, heating, fuel, bus fuel. We could encumber those things based on what we think it's going to be, and that'll give us a better idea of what it's going to be. So if you're looking at that, it's about $600,000. So you're probably about zero at this point. So I take that back. There isn't a lot of room there. I didn't realize the electricity, heating, fuel, and bus fuel weren't encumbered. But we can absolutely do that.
Would your preference be, Beth and Ed, to show that as an encumbrance?
For me, an encumbrance means there's a contractual obligation. So whereas a forecast is something that you're expecting to spend. So I think once our new business manager gets filled, maybe we can talk about some clarity on what these words mean, and then we can figure out how we want to forecast the budget.
Got it, perfect.
I think that's a good way to do it. I've done it both ways. Some districts do it, some districts don't. There's no right or wrong, but if you're trying to get an accurate picture earlier in a year, it's better just to put what you budgeted in, at least as an encumbrance. And then, if things start to deviate from that, you'll know, but you don't think you have, like I just said, $600,000 that you think you don't have obligated, which you actually do.
Yeah.
I've always done that with my former districts, and it's always worked really well.
Putting it all under an encumbrance
Yes.
column, or having a separation
Have it
between encumbrance
separated.
and a forecast?
Having it separated in a forecast.
Okay.
And I've done it a couple different ways, and I think that's not a bad way to do it. As you get later in the year, sometimes I'll even have two separate columns. I'll have an encumbrance column, and I'll have a projected column,
Yes.
and I'll just kind of add them together for an estimate,
That's even better.
which is another way to do it. So there's lots of ways you can do it. It's just, whatever your board is comfortable with.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
If I may,
Yeah.
I just would suggest that we we might want to do that sooner than later, just with the upcoming budget cycle coming.
Yes.
It would be
Right.
nice to know for planning for next year's budget, whether we were on track or not, or if we need to kind of anticipate some
Yeah.
things based on actuals, or at least forecast it.
And I agree, and I think the finance board would also appreciate that as well. It
Yes.
just gives them more visibility and understanding of how we're tracking.
Right.
So again, I wanted to thank you for the last a few months of being here. I've enjoyed being with your district, and hopefully you're in a better spot than when I began, and it's been a pleasure working with everybody on this board. And again, thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Thank you for stepping in and filling a role that ended up being much longer term than any of us had anticipated. So thank you very much.
It's okay. It's not a problem at all, and I'm just glad to do it, and thank you again for the opportunity.
I would just like to say too, David, even though I've just come on board in August, and Mrs. Tinsel I know she'll want to make a few comments too, we really appreciate your company, your dedication, and just transitioning with the transition process and getting us through the past 6 months. And yeah, it's truly been a process, and we've been very lucky to have you. And I know Mrs. Tinsel too worked extensively with you as well back in February and March.
I think we really appreciated your approach of bringing all of the skills that you had from working with other districts to us and trying to pop our eyes open as to other ways to do things. And that really does characterize a learning institution.
Thank
Just
you.
top notch. Thank you.
Thank
Are
you.
there any remaining questions about the financial report? If not, I would entertain a motion to recommend to the full board the approval of the financial management summary ending October 31st, 2021 as presented.
Beth Mysteriak, so moved.
Second?
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I do not have a chairman's report for this evening. If our superintendent has any comments that she'd like to make?
I would just like to mention one of the things that we would like to do with the hiring of the new business manager once they get on board. Both of you had mentioned in the past about an emphasis on reports, and I know Shelton was one example of the great template they use. We can also ask David for some other samples as well, but I think Shelton had some really good things and about quarterly reports and what type of specific financial summaries you would like to see. And I just think that'd be really good. We also talked about a budget timeline calendar. David, I can share one that just in regards with the needs assessment, the whole budget process, because you mentioned that as well. And again, just starting on the needs assessment, today's November the 3rd and looking into December and just getting ready, as you said, with the finance board and the whole budget cycle. I also mentioned that I thought it would be important for the finance committee to sit down and just basically have an informal ad hoc meeting with the new business manager and just talk about some of the things that you would like to see and just getting on board. And I just think that would be a really good step. The most important thing moving next week is with talking about the HVAC project. And David, I think you'll want to say something about that with the ESSER funds. We would like to come back and meet with the town. We know they're all on board in regards with the HVAC projects, but I think it's important the next time we come back to the table, we had one meeting or two meetings basically, and we said the next time it would include our board chair and board representatives. So for this next meeting, I would like to recommend that the finance committee be the 3 people that would be present. So David, can you help me out and explain kind of where they are?
Sure.
The town, we had a really good meeting with First Select Woman.
So what we've done is we've put together at least initial scope of what we anticipate the project to be and the funding sources. But more important than the scope and the project is making sure that everybody's on the same page before we even get started. So before we do any type of bid, I think it's really, and the town feels the same way, that it's important that we all get on the same page and make sure that we all feel like we're represented. Because it is truly a project that will benefit not only the town, but the schools and the students and the community. And it's not cheap. It's a big project. So, really just to kick it off on the right foot, having representation from various boards in the town, which is for Selectman's Office, the Board of Finance, the Board of Education, and anybody else that we deem important to put in those initial groups, just to talk about what that looks like and make adjustments before we do anything out there. And then once we reach consensus, we can move forward with that. This way, there is no ambiguity in the project. It's all up front before we do anything. We've done a lot of work behind the scenes to at least get it to a point where we feel comfortable bringing it forward to the various boards in town. So we'd be honored to have you part of that process, and think it's really important that everybody's included. Because it is not a school project and it's not the town project. It's truly a joint funded project that benefits everyone. And so we've really gone out of our way to try to make sure that process is crystal clear. And we want to present that process to everybody at the same time. So if we can, it would be wonderful to have a meeting sooner rather than later to talk about that, just so we stay ahead of the timeline. And my idea of the timeline is if we want to move forward with this project next summer, there's a pretty hefty lead times on a lot of equipment right now, and if we can get it out there and done, or at least gone through the proposal process by the end of December, we'll be in a good spot to be able to implement when school's out. It gives everybody enough time, but also I want to make sure we have enough time to evaluate that process thoroughly before we do anything. And I think that's a really good approach, and I've seen it work in other towns, so that's what I would recommend.
And the first select woman also has a good plan that we talked about, having one then centralized meeting to include all groups involved to really get this project and the collaboration between the town and the school district together. So I thought that was an excellent idea, and we have you three, we actually could have one board member, because 5 would be a quorum. So I don't know, Chris Champagne's out in the audience, he could be the 4th.
Well, I just want to caution us all that we have an organizational meeting in December.
Yeah.
We have new board members. We may have a new chair. The chair gets feedback from board members on what committees, and then it has to be approved upon, usually at the following meeting. So there could be some glitches with times for December, unless there's a scheduled special meeting just to approve the committee appointees, because you don't know what's going to transpire or who's going to be on what committee when that organizational meeting. I just want us to understand that.
Yeah, I mean, does it make sense? I'm looking at a bug on the table, so forgive me, because if it gets closer, I'm standing up, anyway. Is the town, or I don't know how in the past, I don't know who's owned the reins of doing a building committee, or we had a committee when we did the turf up at the football field. So it feels like this is a project of large enough magnitude that we would want to put together a committee. And in that case, it's just a matter of assigning, people from the Board of Ed. It doesn't have to be like the finance committee's on that. It's just who
That
those
would be a
members
way.
are.
That would be a way to get through our organizational
Yeah.
issues, right?
I think that makes a lot of sense, and what we'll be talking about next week, which is exactly that. So if all the boards and committees are, at least at this point, on the same page, we would lay out the process, and then there would be a committee to help maybe select the vendor and go through the opening, and that would happen at kind of the end of that process. It doesn't have to happen, next week, but we just want to kind of share the process next week.
Perfect.
If that works for you.
Because I believe that there were community members as well on our various building projects, including the schools and the high school. And I mean, why not leverage talent we have in the community in terms of HVAC and engineering specialties? So are those things we could talk about next week, I would imagine, what a committee structure might look like?
Yep, that's exactly what we're going to talk about.
Yeah. And like I said, if you all want to have a board representative of some type there, it would be good. So
Great.
Just decide who wants to be there.
Thank you.
That'd be good. Well, they're appointed.
Any other comments from the superintendent report?
No, that's all.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to make another call for public comment. For those of you arriving, this is the Finance Committee meeting. There will obviously be public comment at the regularly scheduled meeting, but if anyone does have a comment that pertains to school finances and would like to make it, now is the time. Anybody for public comment? And last time for public comment for the Finance Committee meeting. Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Ed. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Swerve and on the road. It's fine.
Because they're up first.
So, next meeting I gave her a big
He's gonna be late.
We have what?
thank you for doing your job. Well, turned out
Give them
her system
award.
was taking a little too longer. So from that day on, we were solid. He's like, oh, there's all positive. I really like it. And it wasn't intentional, I had no idea. But it just all worked. Yeah.
Introduce our new board member. We collate. Yeah. Here comes Jim. She's seen this. You can see Stephanie.
Coming late, that's not, he's downstairs teaching a class.
Mr. Boyle.
I'm supposed to text him when we get close to him.
Okay, call the meeting to order of the Seymour Board of Education. If we could please stand and salute the flag which is behind you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll ask us first to introduce ourselves, starting with Tyler, please.
Tyler Lang, I'm a high school student representative.
Sabrina Weaver, another high school student representative.
Beth Mysteriak, board member.
Kristen Bruno, board member.
Kristen Harmeling, board member.
Chris Champagne, board member.
Fred Stanek, member of the board.
Jay Hatfield, Board Vice Chair.
Ed Tramello, Board Chair.
Peter Kubik, board member.
Leanne Doherty, board clerk.
Dr. Susan Compton, school superintendent.
On the 10th, associate superintendent.
David Fiorello, soon to be former interim business manager.
Okay, and we made a little change so that our students can go when they choose to. You could stay as long or you could leave because we know you have requirements. So we'll start with the student representatives. Who is going first?
I'll go first.
Alrighty, Karina.
Well, over the past month, students have began to do learning announcements during homeroom. And during the last week of October, we had a Spirit Week, which we had America Monday, Tropical Tuesday, Dress Your Best Wednesday, Throwback Thursday, Color Words Friday, and Jersey Monday this past Monday. And last Friday, we held an outdoor pep rally during the last period of the day. And let me just say, it was the best pep rally I've ever been to, I think. It was really, really nice being outside with everybody and just living normal school life. And we also purchased new starch-based powder that will be distributed at home football games and has been found to be safer and healthier alternative to baby powder.
With the Student Council, we're working in collaboration with the National Honor Society to sponsor a food drive that's going to benefit the Blessed Pantry, as well as the Seymour Oxford Food Bank that's going to take place during the first 2 weeks in November and the first 2 weeks of December. And then for our sports, like report here, our girls volleyball team had another undefeated season, 19-0. They have an NBL final game tonight against Woodland. Girls swimming went 5-2 as of right now, and they have NBL finals at Kennedy High School on Saturday. Our girls cross country went 8-5. PJ Dolphin made state opens, and she's going to be running on Friday up at Wickham Park. Our boys cross country team went 9-4. Our season's over. It ended yesterday at States. Girls soccer went 8-7-1. They're in the state tournament right now, and this was the first girls soccer team in Seymour High School history that had a winning record. Boys soccer went 7-8-2. They're in the state tournament, and football is 6-1 right now. They beat WCA this past Saturday at the 75th anniversary game. This week's home game against Derby was forfeited by Derby. The next game is going to be on November 12th, home against Oxford.
Okay, any questions for our representatives? No questions? Okay, I guess you guys did a fine job. We have no questions this time. Okay, thank you. Moving along to public comment. I'll remind people that the opportunity for the public to make a comment, it's not a dialogue between the board and the public. Based upon what is heard during public comment, the board may choose to add a topic to the agenda. If questions are posed, that the chairman is able to answer, those questions may be addressed under the chairman's comments portion of the agenda. The board will not discuss personnel matters. Comments should be respectful and no longer than 3 minutes in length so that all who wish to comment may have the opportunity to do so. All public wanting to comment will need to state their name and address for the record prior to addressing the board. Anyone from the public wishing to make a public comment, come forward.
Good evening, Mary Sue Feige, Bungay School Principal. Good evening, Dr. Compton and Board of Education members. I'd like to take a moment and recognize two very important Board of Education members, Mr. Peter Kubik and Mr. Fred Stanek. Mr. Kubik, thank you for your many years of service to Seymour and to education. We are very proud of our schools, and you have had a large part to do with that. Thank you for being on every building committee in all of our schools, Seymour High, Seymour Middle, Chatfield School, and a special thank you from Bungay Elementary School. Our school, which was built in 1954, you were an important part of Bungay's last renovation, which was completed in 1996. Thank you for taking the time to get to know the staff and the students, for visiting the classrooms, and for reading to our students. You are a very special person. Thank you for being a caring Board of Education member. I can recall on one occasion, it might have even been two, when you asked us to grade our schools. And of course, I gave Bungay School the highest marks, possibly A+. Well, tonight, you deserve the highest marks for all that you have done for our schools and for the students of Seymour. Thank you. Your wife, Darlene, and both of your wonderful children, Tiffany and Nick, who both attended Bungay School, must be so proud of you. Thank you for always caring about education, our schools, and our students. Thank you for your service to the Board of Education, and best wishes to you. And remember, once a wildcat, always a wildcat.
Thank you.
Mr. Stanek, at many Board of Education meetings, I love how you have always taken a moment to recognize someone special for what they have done in Seymour. You have recognized the finest teachers, administrators, staff, students, and distinguished community members. And tonight is a special night for you to be honored and recognized. Thank you for all that you have done for the town of Seymour and for all that you have accomplished. Mr. Stanek, you may be the longest Board of Ed member, 32 years, but you are by far one of the best Board of Education members. I appreciate the times that you have visited our schools, spoke to our students on career day, and shared what it's like to be an attorney. And I am confident that you have inspired many of Seymour students to choose law as a career. You have always encouraged Seymour's administrators, teachers, staff, students, and the community to be their best. You have always put children first. Through your continuous support to education, you have helped to inspire a strong, positive, caring climate and culture for our students, staff, and the community, while helping to improve student learning. Your dedication and commitment to children and to the community is an inspiration to everyone. You are an amazing person who values education. Mr. Stanek, together with your wife, Karen, you both have contributed so many ways to our wonderful town of Seymour. You have raised 3 accomplished and amazing children, Courtney, Patrick, and David. You have always been involved in our community and in educating Seymour's children, whether it be on the wonderful Seymour Parade Committee or participating like you did last week at the Fest of Seymour's Trunk or Treat. Mr. Stanek, you are a special person, one of a kind who always takes special pride in the town of Seymour. And I've heard you say this many times, a town that we all love and a town close to our hearts. Best of luck in whatever wonderful things your future holds for you. You deserve it. To both of you, thank you on behalf of Seymour School District, administrators, teachers, and students for all that you have done. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wishing to comment?
Mr. DeStacy, working with Dr. Compton, developed a
hours of education and work tirelessly to improve Seymour schools for our children and our children's children. Tonight, we extend our deepest thanks to two paragons of the Seymour education, Fred Stanek and Peter Kubik, each of whom have dedicated countless hours to better our entire community and our past, future, and present students. While we cannot fully repay the debt owed to both of you, please accept the following proclamations on behalf of the town of Seymour. Mr. Kubik. Proclamation from the town of Seymour, whereas a robust and complete education is transformative, and whereas our community entrusts their children to Seymour Public Schools in support of the development of avid learners, mobile citizens, and bold leaders, and whereas this mission is only made possible by exemplary efforts of teachers, staff, and members of the Board of Education, and whereas Peter Kubik has been a member of the Board of Education for 10 years and lent his leadership to every building committee for both the Board of Education and town of Seymour, and whereas in his decades of service, Peter Kubik has dedicated himself to the advancement of Seymour schools and to the betterment of our past, current, and future students. And whereas we must dedicate ourselves to build on the foundation laid by Peter. Resolved that on behalf of the town of Seymour, I join the Board of Education in extending our deepest thanks to Peter Kubik, and the recognition of his legacy shall serve as a standard by which we measure ourselves as public servants, community members, and people. Thank you, Mr. Kubik. Oh, Mr. Stanek.
Yes, Madam First Select Woman.
I'm so glad we're going to sit on a board together. And I mean that with the deepest of my
I know
heart,
you do. I know you do.
because we judge well together. Proclamation from the town of Seymour. Whereas Frederick Stanek is a graduate of the University of Connecticut and Syracuse University College of Law, and whereas Frederick Stanek is a distinguished attorney of more than 40 years, admitted for practice to law before all courts of the state of Connecticut, and partner with Tedosino Stanek LLC, and whereas Fred Stanek has lent his leadership to many organizations and advanced civic and cultural initiatives as a selectman, Griffin Hospital trustee, committee member for the Matthews Foundation, amongst others. And whereas in this more than 30 years of the Board of Education, Frederick Stanek has dedicated himself to the advancement of the Seymour schools and the betterment of our past, current, and future students. And whereas Frederick Stanek serves as a standard by which we measure ourselves as public servants, community members, and most all people. And as dedicated as Frederick was to Seymour, he was even more so dedicated to his family. Thank you, Mr. Stanek. But Fred, your commitment to the town of Seymour, our student body, and just the town in general. I have my fond memories of Seymour High School with my sister in mock trial with you and Karen, and that comes up so many times as we've had the conversation many times. You'll continue to do right by the town of Seymour. You give so much, as Anne Maria said before, so many people, including ourselves, look up to you as a leader, as a knowledge board of anything that we need to know about the town of Seymour. So I appreciate everything you've done and will continue to do for many years to come. Pete, again, 10 years, can't imagine doing it for 10 years, but you've done it, and you guys have given so much to this town from this board. So again, thank you for all the work you've done and that you'll continue to. I hope you're both on for another 20 years. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wishing to make a comment? Anyone else from the public wishing to make a comment? One more time. Anyone else from the public wishing to make a comment? Hearing none, public comment portion is closed. Now we get to more proclamations. Okay, November 3rd, Seymour Public Schools Board of Education, resolution recognizing the outstanding service of Mr. Peter Kubik. Whereas the Seymour Board of Education strives toward excellence in its educational program, and whereas outstanding service and dedication by board members past and present are recognized, and whereas one of the ambitions of the district is to identify and honor distinguished board members and to celebrate and pay special tribute to tireless efforts of building and preserving the educational integrity of the Seymour Public School District. And whereas Peter Kubik is a particularly outstanding community member from among a history of considerable Board of Education members and esteemed company, and whereas exceptional service by board members is extremely important to staff, students, and the community as a whole, and whereas Peter Kubik has been a member of the Seymour Board of Education in 2010 to 2012, and again from 2015 to 2021. And whereas Peter Kubik has served on every building committee from the Board of Education in the town of Seymour, Connecticut. And I might add a little levity to it, and he has his name in every building also. So, keep up. And whereas the Seymour Public Schools Board of Education believes that all such great people should be recognized for outstanding duties and dedication. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Seymour Board of Education and the superintendent does hereby extend gratitude and appreciation to Peter Kubik for his exemplary service to the Seymour Board of Education in the town of Seymour, Connecticut, which honor him and thank him as a highly distinguished representative of the Board of Education and dedication to the children, the education, of the children of Seymour. Further resolved that the Seymour Board of Education wishes Peter Kubik continued success in all his endeavors and expresses our hope for his continued health, happiness, and prosperity. Dated at Seymour, Connecticut, by the Seymour Board of Education on his 3rd day of November 2021. Okay, and then Jay has another thing.
Thank you.
Mr. Hatfield. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I move that this board adopts the resolution as read, celebrating the tenure of Mr. Kubik as a member of this board.
Okay, second by Mr. Champagne. Any discussion needed? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising their hands. Passes 7 and 1 abstention. Okay.
Can I read my?
You can do yours now.
So I would like to take this opportunity to thank the residents of the town of Seymour for putting their confidence in me and electing me to the board. I would also like to thank my fellow and past board members, the superintendent of schools and previous superintendents, the associate superintendent, the central office staff, director of facilities, special education, security, nutrition, as well as principals, assistant principals, teachers, paras, secretaries, custodians, cafeteria staff, and anyone else that I may have missed. I thank everybody that's backed me in this endeavor. After serving on all the school building committees in the town, I was asked to join the Board of Education. I thought long and hard, and as I wanted to ensure I would be able to invest the time and energy for such a demanding board. After much thought, I decided to go forward. My thought was that I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to help pave the way for a successful education for all the students, as this would provide the opportunity after high school to pursue their dreams, whether it was college, the military, trades, or any other blue-collar job. I feel in the 10 years that I have been on the Board of Education, we have made much progress in providing the quality education for our students. We have lived through some unprecedented times over the last 2 years and have been challenged and been challenged. I believe we are headed in the right direction and hopefully back to a normal in the near future. I would also like to congratulate my fellow board member and friend, Fred Stanek, for his election to the Board of Selectmen. And Fred, thank you for your wisdom, contributions to the education of our students, and the mentoring that you have provided over the years. Thank you once again for giving me the opportunity to serve on this board.
Okay, Seymour Public Schools Board of Education resolution recognizing the outstanding service of Mr. Frederick Stanley. Whereas the Seymour Board of Education strives toward excellence in its educational programs, and whereas outstanding service and dedication by board members past, present, are recognized, and whereas one of the ambitions of the district is to identify and honor distinguished board members and to celebrate and pay special tribute to the tireless efforts of building and preserving the educational integrity of the Seymour Public School District, and whereas Frederick Stanek is a particularly outstanding community member from among the history of considerable Board of Education members in an esteemed company, and whereas exceptional service by a board member is extremely important to staff, students, and the community as a whole, and whereas Frederick Stanek has been the longest-serving member in the history of the Seymour Board of Education, serving as both board chairman, vice chairman, and member respectively, and whereas the Seymour Board of Education believes that all such great people should be recognized for outstanding duties and dedication. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Seymour Board of Education and the superintendent does hereby extend gratitude and appreciation to Frederick Stanek for his exemplary service to the Seymour Board of Education in the town of Seymour, Connecticut, which honor him and thank him as a highly distinguished representative of the Board of Education and his dedication to the education of the children of Seymour. Further resolved that the Seymour Board of Education wishes Frederick Stanek continued success in all his endeavors and expresses our hope for his continued health, happiness, and prosperity. Dated at Seymour, Connecticut, and adopted by the Seymour Board of Education on this 3rd day of November 2021. Mr. Stanek.
Thank you very much.
If you said first, then you could talk if you want. I have something else.
I'll wait.
Okay. All right. First personal, yes.
Move that we adopt the proclamation.
Okay. Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Passes again 7-1. Okay, on a personal, before I do this last one for Mr. Stanek, Mr. Stanek was the person that got me involved in the Board of Education umpteen years ago, too. I think I'm the second longest serving. But he asked me to fill in for a departed friend of ours who was the chair of the board at that particular time.
David Brummer.
David Brummer. So thank you personally. This comes from the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education, CABE, recognizes Fred Stanek for his 33 years of dedicated service to the children and public education in Connecticut. Presented this 3rd day, signed by Donald Harris, President, and Robert Rader, Executive Director from CABE. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour.
You're welcome.
If I may say a few words.
Sure.
I would like to thank everyone who spoke on my behalf, Mrs. Feige, on behalf of my wife, Karen, this evening. I'm really touched by your comments mentioning Karen, who I'm sure would love to be here, but I'm sure she's looking down upon us smiling. And thank you, Mr. Floyd, Madam First Selectwoman, State Representative Nicole Flores-Titria, Mr. Stramillo, and everyone. I greatly appreciate your kind words, but I first would like to congratulate Peter Kubik for his tenure on this board. Pete has been a friend for a long time. Our children went to school together. He has really been an outstanding member of this board. Pete does his homework. He asks probing questions. He cares about the children. He has no political agenda. He's going to be missed by this board, and I hope that, Pete, you come back to this board at some point in the future, because the children of this town deserve your wisdom and involvement in the school district. Congratulations to you.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you.
A close friend of mine recently told me that I am going to miss being a member of the Board of Education. I am sure that I will, but as a newly elected member of the Board of Selectmen, I will consider myself as the 10th member of this board. I will always be on the Board of Selectmen advocating for the children of the town and doing what I can to assist the Board of Education. Earlier this year, I recalled the words of my former high school principal, Tony Lopresti, who became principal when I was a senior at Seymour High School. Mr. Lopresti, who still is with us, living here at Seymour, retired from the Seymour School District in the mid-1990s. When he was retiring, many people, including my wife Karen, tried to talk him out of retiring. He was a special person. And his response to those who wanted him to stay on was, you have to know when it's your time. You have to know when it's your time. Earlier this year, I decided it was my time to move on from the Seymour Board of Education. 32 years is a long time. I had the opportunity to work with 5 superintendents and the honor of working with dedicated Board of Education members, the staff, teachers, the custodians, the administrators, cafeteria workers, para-educators, and everyone else. It's been an honor, and I thank all of you for your support. Everyone works hard in the school district for the benefit of the children. That's what it is all about, the children. We all must keep that always in perspective as we make decisions as board members, as teachers, and as administrators. I would like to thank my family, especially my wife Karen, for allowing me to attend the countless meetings required as a member of the Board of Education. Everyone at this table needs to be thanked by thanking their family for allowing them to attend these meetings over and over again. And I thank my family for not only allowing me to attend these meetings, but also sharing their suggestions and their criticisms of my positions and votes as a member of this board. As I said earlier, I know Karen would be pleased to be here this evening. I've already recognized Pete Kubik, who I will miss sitting on a board with, but hopefully we will sit together on the board again in the future for a committee. But I would also like to recognize and thank a very special person also, Administrative Assistant Leanne Doherty, who is also the clerk of the board and present this evening. Leanne performs her job in an outstanding manner. She is quiet, competent, efficient, and always there for the district. She has always been there for me to assist me as a board member. Thank you, Leanne.
Thank you.
I would also like to thank my fellow board members. All of you are special. We may not always agree, but all of you are special for the time and the ideas and the suggestions you make to benefit the children of Seymour. I would especially like to thank and recognize Chairman Ed Stramillo. Ed and I are good friends, but we often argue passionately about educational issues. Ed, coming from the perspective of an administrator, retired administrator, and myself more as a community member. but we argue passionately. And once upon a time, Sharon Iwaski from Bungay School said she could not believe that we are friends because we've had such passionate arguments. But we never lose our perspective of what is in the best interest of the children, and our friendship continues. One person who is no longer with us, who was elected to the Board of Education in 1989 when I was first elected, is David Brummer, who was mentioned earlier. David was chairman of the Board of Education from 1989 until his untimely passing in April of 1998. Dave was a dedicated member of this board, and he had ideas that were ahead of his time. Unfortunately, we lost him too early in life, and I miss him dearly. I hope I have made a small difference as a member of this board for the children of Seymour over the years. I know the Seymour Board of Education, with the leadership of Superintendent Dr. Susan Compton and Mrs. Tenza, will continue the high-quality educational program for our students here at Seymour. Finally, I would like to read what I posted on Facebook at the beginning of the school year. If I can find it. Just give me a moment.
If you have service.
That may be a problem. To our Seymour students, on this upcoming first day of school for the 2021-2022 school year, I wish to share with you what I often recited to my children in the morning as I sent them off to school. Be good. Work hard. Do your best. Never doubt where your dreams might take you with hard work. And remember, once a wildcat, always a wildcat. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me this evening.
Next on the agenda is the National Merit Scholarship Program.
Good evening. Every October and January, junior students take ESAT and an SPC qualifying assessment. This is to qualify for the National Merit Scholarship. This year, we're proud of two of our seniors who scored within the top 50,000 of the more than 1.5 million students who took this assessment last year. These students are being recognized as commended students there, and again, they're in the top 50,000 of the students, junior students last year who took this assessment. I'd like to have Catherine Bruno.
Mr. Freund, would you Heather? Thank you. Congratulations.
And Michaela Davis.
Yeah.
Okay, then you stay put as well.
Yep.
Have another.
Oh, that's up there. Thank you. Yep.
Congratulations.
Yeah, go ahead and stay. We'd just like to say a few comments. And we want your principal to remain with you. This is one of the most distinguished awards that two high school students can But tonight, we're extremely proud of both of you. Again, there's only 34,000 of you in the country for 2001-2002 school year, and you make us very proud. So, Chairperson Mr. Stramello has two nice recognitions to give you, along with Ms. Jensen and myself. We'll present it to them.
Thank you. And I would like also to have the parents step forward for these two
Yes.
students. Please come forward. Please come forward. And let's, the parents be in the picture without us. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, Jamie from our newspaper would like the, yes. Yeah. Come on.
Like what?
Yes. They'd like to get a picture, if she would, of both of our retiring board members.
Oh, I'll take your picture. No, I'll take the picture.
I think you get. And you can put your ball around. Yeah, come on.
I have so many pictures for you tomorrow to post. I will. I absolutely will send you both the pictures.
All right, our next agenda item is the Emergency Preparedness Art Contest, which is hosted by Northern Valley Health to promote National Preparedness Month, and we have some winners that are here tonight, Dr. Compton.
Yes, and I'd
Correct.
like for the Bungie principal to come up with their elementary winners, the first, second, and third place. They're all from Bungie. And then we have a high school winner, Mr. Floyd, if she's here tonight.
First place, please.
And your teachers come up too? We'd like to have our teachers. You made it happen with the students.
First place, awarded for Lara.
Since we're recognizing students tonight, which this is one of the things that the Board of Ed really emphasized to me, how they wanted to see student recognition really be valued. We're also going to be giving another update about a very outstanding assistant principal. I'm going to let the principal tell you what is coming down in regards to that. We're hoping next month that we'll bring back another update, but right now, I'll give you the honor of talking about our assistant principal. And Laura, if you could come up to the tree.
So Lauren Reed is an exceptional, outstanding individual, and she is an excellent assistant principal. Lauren is valued by the students and the staff and all in Connecticut Association of Schools. Sent something down for the National Assistant Principal of the Year, and I asked if it was okay to submit this, and Central Office said absolutely, she's wonderful. So Lauren Reed has made so many wonderful changes to Bungay School with our school climate. Her knowledge of technology is amazing. Kids look up to her all the time, parents. She has such a great relationship with everyone. So I had written a letter, and Mrs. Tenza, one of our teachers, had written a letter, and Lauren was just notified that she is a finalist for the National Assistant Principal of the Year for 2020. On November 19th, and they're going to meet with the district office. I think Mrs. Harmeling, you're
Yeah, you've been selected.
wonderful there, as well being a Bungay parent and a Board of Ed member there. So if you can make it, that would be wonderful. There's parents and there's teachers, and she's got 4 different committees that she has to coordinate and arrange for their visit. Starts early in the morning, and they will be there for a good portion of the day, interviewing and finding out about Lauren Reed, and we are tickled pink. We're just so excited. She's just incredible, and we're happy for you. Thank you.
Yes.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Student, high school students.
Okay. Do we still want to announce?
We can, yes, please do
Yeah,
that.
I think we should, yeah.
And then we'll bring that person back next.
You're right. Okay. And our high school winner was unable to attend, but we will invite them to her to the next one. That's Emily Zhu for grade 12 was the other winner. And do not be afraid afraid to leave whenever you want. If you have younger children that need to go home to go to bed, you can do that, or they need to go home to do work, they can do that also. We will not be offended by any means. Okay. And I'm gonna be also very bold, and I'm gonna ask people who are sitting in the back to please move forward now. Don't sit so far back. Somebody needs to lead that, otherwise no one will move. Come on, move up. You've been here, move up. Yes,
They
thank you.
had those pictures.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. The next agenda item is the consent agenda. What is the board's pleasure?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second to the motion by Ms. Harmon?
Second.
Seconded by Jay Hatfield. Any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by raising your hands. Okay. Peter? Oh, you're gonna make a thing, okay. So I have 7, and any abstention, any noes first? Okay, none, any abstentions? 701. Ms. Doherty. Okay, next item is the Proactive Sports Medicine LLC. We have a motion there. Who would like to move that motion?
I will make a motion to approve the athletic training service agreement from Proactive Sports Medicine LLC for the service period of August 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Harmon. Who seconds that motion? Beth, okay, thank you, Beth. Any discussion needed?
We don't need services in the month of July?
Basically, this contract was kind of, basically not been approved by the Board of Ed, so that's when I came on in August, and that's why it's late, so August, I don't think there were any services, so.
So
This-
I totally see. So if we
Yeah.
need July, it would just be a new contract year. We would start July 1, new fiscal. Got it.
Correct, yeah.
And if I may too. Mrs.
Go ahead,
Thomas,
go ahead.
Interesting question in the sense of, do we really need it in July in the sense of what would be going on? I mean, that is, you know, I guess I would kind of like to, I can't imagine we would have, football would be August, you know, end of June, any other sports that are spring sports. So I kind of wonder what would be in July in the sense that I also wouldn't want them to come and say to us, oh, well, we're going to do paperwork and charge us the minimum 2 hours. And I'm not disagreeing with your statement, but.
And a lot of contracts do run just July 1st through June 30th, and in all due honesty, it was just dated for August the 1st. I assume that's kind of the way it's been, I'm just not sure.
I'm not advocating to add
Yeah.
July.
Oh,
I
right.
was just asking the question because it's just funny to have an 11-month contract.
Yes, it is.
That's all. Because we only get billed for what we use anyway.
That's right.
And I think per CIAC, there's not school-approved activities being allowed to be done in July, even in August. It starts in the later days in August also. So that's why I think that is, but that's a good question. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand, please. I see it unanimous. No one's no. 8-0, no one abstained. Okay, we have before us now 2 advisor positions under Appendix E. You have 2 motions there. Who makes the first motion?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
I move to approve the request of the administration at Seymour High School to fund an advisor position for the art club by using unused funds from the webpage advisor position.
And is a second.
I'll second.
Mrs. Bruno seconds. Any discussion? Clarification from the administration, from any board members? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, I see again 8-0. Okay, there you have your next one, Science Environmental Club. What is the board's pleasure?
Make a motion to approve the request of administration at the Seymour High School to fund an advisor position for the Science/Environmental Club by using unused funds from the Visions Advisor position.
I will second the motion.
Seconded by Mr. Stanek, motion by Mr. Hatfield. Any discussion needed? All those in favor, please again raise your hand. Again, count 8. Okay, moving along to business manager position.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the recommendation of the Seymour Personnel Search Committee to hire Salvador A. Bucci as the business manager and to offer a 1-year employment agreement.
And I will second the motion.
Seconded by Mr. Stanek to Ms. Harmon's motion. Any discussion?
I would just like to say it was a pleasure to meet you, and pending approval of this full board, I really look forward to working with you. And I just am very, very excited about the idea of someone with your background coming to work in our humble little town, so thank you.
And if I may, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, likewise, Mr. Bucci, congratulations and welcome you to Seymour. And I feel that you are going to be a great complement to our central office administration. I wish you the best of luck.
Go ahead.
I just want to say thank you very much to the Board of Education, to the superintendent, and to the associate superintendent. It was actually a very enjoyable hiring process. I felt that I was given more than a fair opportunity to be able to talk about the things that I'd like to do, like to bring. I come here with most of my career behind me, with a lot of aspirations about what I can contribute to children and to the growth of the school district here in Seymour, and I'm looking forward to it, and I will give you 100% of everything I have every day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we need to vote on the motion, so please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries 8-0. Next is the, to approve proposal 1 or proposal 2. Mr. Hatfield, you had a question first before we make a motion, correct?
No, I'll ask afterward. Oh,
No.
you're right.
I
Yeah,
think
I'm
you
sorry.
should ask it now.
So I couldn't really see the difference.
Start time.
Yeah, 1717.
Geez, that was so subtle. Come on. Should have been more red. I was looking at the dates. Jeez. Okay.
All right, I will start it. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I move we approve proposal number 2 of the 22-23 schedule for the Board of Ed meetings as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Jay. Motion made by Mr. Champagne. Any further discussion?
Can I ask
Yes.
the impetus for the change?
Pardon me?
Was there any reason for the change, or just?
I think that some of us wanted to go to bed earlier, Mrs. Wisteria, because I think our meetings go long, so I think that's probably the biggest reason.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's just a difficult time when you have little, it's, both sides of the point, I hear you. But I understand, thank you.
You can vote no, obviously, to the later time, but, yeah, and I'm just teasing you.
That's been the debate over the years.
Yes.
You know, we've talked about this issue many times over the years, and especially young parents who are members have families to take care of at the dinner hour, getting children ready for bed.
Yep.
And so it's tough, I know.
Yes.
Do we have to approve this tonight? Do you think that we could wait till December for our new board members to be able to weigh in?
You could wait. Yeah, that's totally your discretion. If you want to have more
If you want to
discussion
table
about
it to
it.
the next meeting?
If I may, if you do not approve this month and you file after the December meeting, which will be December 6th, you will not be able to have a regular meeting of the Board of Ed until after January 6th.
So you need to.
You have to file with the town clerk's office at least 30 days prior
First meeting?
to the first regular meeting.
We
You
don't
could have a special meeting earlier, but not the regular. So that's a consideration.
Okay, everybody clear on that? Because we have a motion, yes?
I'm just looking at the first date in January is January 10th. So if we were to table this, we would still be. You can't have a regular meeting.
Why?
It would be within 30 days, December 6th to January 10th. Oh, yes, okay. Yes, you'd be okay.
I think we should table it.
Okay, you're gonna make that motion then?
Yes, I would like to table until the December 5th meeting, the adoption of the 2022-2023 Board of Education meetings.
Is there a second to Ms. Harmon's motion to table? Okay, Mrs. Bruno will second. Okay, now we're clear, we're tabling it to the next meeting. All those in favor of tabling it, please raise your hand. Again, 8-0. Okay, moving along to the early retirement incentive program. What's the board's pleasure?
Make a motion to authorize an early retirement incentive program per the collective bargaining agreement for eligible teachers and administrators as recommended by the superintendent of schools.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Champagne, motion made by Mr. Hatfield. Everyone understands that we offer this every, during the contract.
This is the last part of the
Right.
contract.
Right.
It's the last one.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns?
So I just
Go
wanted to
ahead.
clarify through the
Go
chair
ahead.
that the early incentive plan that we are offering is the same as the draft from 2018, no
Yes.
changes?
Right.
Okay. 'Cause I know there was some documentation.
Right, we showed all of that. The other important thing to always remember, you separate as a board, even though it doesn't have to be a part of the teacher's contract. You can do an early retirement incentive anytime that you would desire as a standalone. But this is just a requirement that's under the last contract here that is ending.
Any other questions? Okay, yes.
I have a question for Dr. Compton. Is this type of an early retirement incentive plan in line with plans that you've seen in the past?
Yes, and I went back and did the history of what some of the former superintendents had done. And again, I think this is fair. It's,
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
If I may, I have in the past voted against the early retirement incentive for various reasons. I've always thought that if we're going to offer an early retirement incentive, it should be something of more substance to hopefully induce younger teachers at the 25 to 30-year mark to retire. This may not be part of the next contract, but I'm going to vote yes this evening, so I go out on a positive note on this.
Yeah, I've always had concerns with that in voting also.
Because many people who are at the 35, 37 and a half year mark end up getting the early retirement incentive, and it was just a bonus.
Mhm.
And I've always had an issue with that. That's just my personal opinion on the issue.
Yeah.
And my wife was a teacher, so.
Mine was the opposite. I thought that we were encouraging good teachers to leave sometimes.
Well, that's another issue, too.
That was my concern.
That's another issue.
Yep. Yes, Mrs. Brown.
I would add to that, I'm going to vote yes for this because I know it's a requirement that we're required to offer. I think we've experienced in the last couple of years that we need every single good educator that's out there. So
Yes.
I would hope that nobody would take advantage of this because the need is certainly there for the quality staff that we have in the district. But I am going to support it because for pragmatic reasons.
Any other comments? Okay, we have a motion and second. All those in favor, please raise your hand again so that we can count. 8-0 again. Okay, moving on to reports. First one is the Finance Committee. Harmon as the chair of that committee.
I don't have any specific things, just to say thank you again in a more public and a better attended meeting than our committee meetings. Thank you very much for being a long-term interim finance director, and we absolutely look forward to your assistance and collaboration with Mr. Wucci, and again, thank you. And also just to let the broader board know that Mr. Fiorelli worked really hard to get the encumbrances column correct, which is really going to help us in tracking our budget. And we've got some ideas that we're hopefully put in place to even continue that process towards greater transparency and clarity around our finances. So thank you, Dio.
And I'll second those opinions. It was a pleasure working. Thank you. Okay, we have committee meeting minutes there for you from the Finance Committee of October 4th and from the Curriculum Technology Committee. Anyone from the Curriculum Technology Committee want to comment on those? Or just let it goes up to...
We talked a bit about the high school graduation requirements and some curriculum that is coming down the pike as part of a state mandate. So there will be more to come on both of those issues.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the Curriculum Technology Committee of the other board members? Okay, then we'll move on to the Special Education Enrollment Report from Dr. Boyle.
Sure. I mean, the report was submitted. What you'll see for the special education enrollment throughout the district per school, the hours have increased at a fairly predictable rate at this point. I would say that based on the number of evaluations we're currently completing, you'll continue to see that number rise at a similar rate. What's probably of most note on this month's report is the last page with the students receiving pre-referral interventions. If you compare the June numbers to October, November, you see a significant increase in the number of students we're currently able to provide interventions for, most specifically in the mathematics area at the elementary level. That's due in large part to tutors that have been able to have been hired recently. And that's a wonderful thing, that we're able to give kids the services that they need right when they need it. We may have been able to expand some of the criteria for which we're given interventions for. And again, that's going to go a long ways as far as helping to recoup some of what was lost in the last year and a half or so. So aside from that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Dr. Boyle? Yes, Ms. Harmon.
Could you talk a little bit about why the math at Bungie and CLS is so different in terms of a trend line from June to November?
So the way that Bungie and CLS have structured the intervention groups are a little bit different. So they're working with larger groups at CLS. So the tutors are coming in primarily at CLS working tier 2 groups, but they're larger sections of groups. And then the math specialists at the building, the math specialist at CLS is working with the tier 3 groups. Again, larger groups, but able to address more students. So.
Yeah, I guess I get concerned when I see such a great disparity in how we're approaching anything, never mind intervention, but I mean, to have 41 students at Bungie having math tier 2 or 3 intervention and 99 at CLS, I just don't know why we would be doing something that differently across our 2 elementary schools. And I don't know if that's a question for you or for principals or for Dr. Compton or Mrs. Nando.
Right. I mean, our principals are constantly in communication with one another about the way in which they provide services. So that's, probably a question that could be addressed better by someone other than me. But I'm just the collector of information as far as the pre-referral data goes. So.
We can talk more about that in December.
Okay, Ms. Harmon?
Yes. I don't know, it's just, I know we're not there as a district yet, but when I see something like this, just something being handled so differently, with no judgment, I'm not saying at all that one way is better or worse than the other, I just don't understand the difference, and I don't know.
With the extremes, one of the things too, there's a difference in enrollment, but that's not the reason, but there's a combination of different programs of one school
Right.
versus another school. But I think just kind of a more detailed analysis to really look would really help, and I think that's what you'd like to see, Kristen, just a better understanding, why do we have this much of a variation and a gap?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, because it's not just with that, it's just looking at other programs as well as far as the gap and where there's discrepancies. Do they want to say something?
Would you prefer to wait till December?
At Sunday school, we have picked students with collaboration with our math teacher there, and students who are in the 40th percentile and lower, and/or teacher recommendation. And that's how many students we have this far. Based off of the fall math results too. We started with the spring results in the fall, so we're looking at that when we take the Worcester map. We'll use that. Teachers at Monday School, they do interventions 2 and tier 1, and then in tier 2 and 3, it's taken truly as an SRBI intervention group of 1 to 3 students typically.
David?
Dave Rutledge, President
lot more students.
Can I ask a follow-up question? 'Cause
Go ahead.
Jared- So I hear you on the raw number of students, but if Mrs. Feige could speak about what percentile math performance is in the intervention at Bungay School?
It's the same, below the 40th percentile.
Okay, thank you.
Same
Thank you. That to me speaks to equity, so I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, moving along to Griffin Hospital Allied Health Partnership update, Mr. Stanek and Mr. Lucky.
Would you like me to speak first, Mr. Stanek?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just make a few comments, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for having me here today. I'd like to especially thank Mr. Stanek. We're fortunate enough to have him on this board all of these years, and his legacy is certainly going to go beyond his retirement this year from this board. So one of the things that Mr. Stanek did was able to help us with our partnership with Griffin Hospital, because he serves on that board also. So he was able to put all the constituents together. We had a meeting last week with Griffin Hospital. Mr. Stanek was there, myself, and Dr. Compton, and some other people. And we learned that they have what they call a primary care technician program at Griffin. And what that does is it gets the people that are involved in that educational program 4 certifications, CNA, phlebotomy, and there's 2 others that they will get at the close of that program. And Sonia has been in talks with them over the years. This year is the first year they're going to implement it. And the way that Griffin's implementing with the Ansonia is that it occurs the second half of senior year. So that poses a bit of a problem as far as trying to implement the program this year, but we are going to go 100% for implementation next year and every year thereafter. In the background, myself and Mrs. Dyer, who is our EMT teacher and science teacher, have been working with one of our workplace investment boards. It's called the Workplace out of Bridgeport, Connecticut. And Ms. Sarah Lewis has been working with us. So simultaneously, when Mr. Stanek came to us to start to set this up, we were talking with them. And we were able to verbally get a commitment from the workplace to have 4 of our students paid for every year for the next 3 years via a grant that the workplace has. So that's good because the program is about $4,500 for a student, and of course we'll be saving the students and or the board that cost in the future. So I was tasked with self-tasked with putting together kind of a timeline to get things moving. And I have a rough draft of the timeline that will be sent out to all the constituents. But basically what we're looking at is the month of December having Griffin come to the high school at night along with Mrs. Dyer for the EMT program to put on a program for the parents and the students at night so they understand what each of the programs are and where a student might be best fit. And then we are going to hold interviews in very early January for the students. This is the program for next year. And then mid-January, we will put out award letters so that students will have time to sign up for particular courses that they need for next year. So the most difficult piece is the kids have to have all their credits for graduation by the end of the second marking period. Because the whole 3rd and 4th marking period, 5 days a week, they will be going to Griffin for this program. It's that intense. It's like 5 or 6 months straight, 5 days a week. So we really have to be careful of getting this done in this timeline if we want to implement next year, because there will be some students who are juniors this year who may have a study hall the second half of this school year. They may have to give up that study hall in order to take more courses so that they would potentially be able to graduate by January of next school year to get into this program. So that's kind of why it's on a quick timeline for us. I was also talking with Mrs. Lewis out of the workplace, and we do have a student that we've already identified and already spoken with her that wants to do the program, but she won't have the credits by January to jump in and do it right now. But we are still going to secure that funding for her so that immediately upon graduation she will go into either Griffin's program or a similar one, free of charge. The workplace will pick up the funding for her so that she can get these certifications herself and then go right into the workplace that she wants to do. And Mrs. Dyer and I are going to continue with guidance to work to see if there's any other students from this year that would want to follow a similar pathway, so it's not a financial burden on them if they want to follow this program this coming summer when they graduate. I also want to really thank Mr. Kubik and Mr. Stanek for all their years of service, and more especially the poignant and purposeful questions that both of you have asked over the last 15 years of my career as administrator in the district. I very much appreciated those and the thought-provoking questions. And it made me a better administrator to think about the things that all of you think about and question me on during that time. I get a better understanding what the community wants and how to best fit their needs and to move our school forward. So with that, I'll entertain any questions, or if Mr. Stanek has anything else he'd like to add.
I just wanted to mention, to supplement what Mr. Lucky mentioned, and he has done an excellent job explaining the program. Griffin Health Services Corporation started the School of Allied Health Careers some years ago as a result of finding that many of their phlebotomists that they were hiring were not well trained. The hospital then hired a professional educator phlebotomist, and from that, because it found that it had to retrain some of these people who were going to the post-high school technical schools, paying $20,000 for a program and not being well trained. Griffin then created this School of Allied Health Careers, in which it offers 4 certifications: certified nursing assistant, patient care technician, phlebotomist, and certified clinical medical assistant. A few years ago, Griffin and the then superintendent of Ansonia High started to develop the program that Ansonia has gone through, where the Ansonia students started as volunteers at the hospital as freshmen and sophomores, then worked into becoming candy stripers and more intense patient contact. And now 10 students were involved, but 7 are going to enter the program for the intense training in January. So there are 3 spots open right now, and Griffin did offer to us in the event that we had a student, perhaps our students who might be able to qualify, but Mr. Lucky explained that. In going through this program, our students will graduate from the program with being certified in 3 or 4 of these positions and ready to go into the workplace. So this is a perfect opportunity for the non-college bound student, or even the college bound student who is looking to train medically for the future and look for maybe part-time work during college or summer work. So this is a great partnership, I think, with Griffin, and I'm certainly very pleased that Superintendent Compton, Mr. Lucky, are on board and promoting this program. It seems that it's going to come to fruition.
Any questions for either Mr. Lucky or Mr. Stanley?
November 16th, Tracy, I'm following up with her, what time with that program that she's offered for us to go watch with Ansonia?
Yeah, Sonia, I believe, is having a ceremony for these particular students that are entering this program.
Right.
On the 16th, and Dr. Compton and I are going to attend.
So we're going to find out the exact time. I emailed her today to get clarification. Thank you.
And the person who is the educator there is a Seymour graduate, Mr. Stanley?
Yes.
1984 graduate of Seymour High School.
That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with our entire
Nice, yeah.
innovative program.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I got a heads up from Mr. Connors that the representative from Johnson would not be able to attend, so we're going to have to wait till the next meeting.
And he'll definitely be here in December. So I think that's important. We want the main representative to be here.
Be here, so we don't have to repeat the question. Okay, we have nutrition services, product shortage, Mrs. Brooks.
Thank you. Mr. Stanek and Mr. Kubik, I want to thank you both for all your years of service and for supporting the nutrition services program. Mr. Stanek, you were the one that changed the name from the lunch program to nutrition services.
Yes, it used to be the lunch
many years
program.
ago.
And we also worked closely in developing the breakfast program.
Absolutely. Actually, your wife was the one who started it in the beginning
Yes.
at the high school.
Yes.
And when you spoke earlier, I'm on my 32nd
Well, thank you, and I will be around in a different capacity.
So, I know you've all heard on the news about the shortages and, you know, did your Christmas shopping early and the grocery store shelves are empty. So are the storage rooms, freezers, and refrigerators here in the district. I spend every waking moment, every night at home, and my weekends worrying about whether or not I'm going to have that tray the students
I just want to say a special thank you to you, Mrs. Brooks, and your staff. The lunch, they've been tremendous for breakfast and lunch and everything they've done, and the custodians and the food service workers. And we just cannot say enough. You're working against all of these situations with COVID, with the whole trucking shortage, and now the supplies and whatever. But every day you keep moving along, just like the same thing we did with shortage of bus drivers. But I just want to say you've done a phenomenal job, and we appreciate what you and our food service employees are doing.
Thank you.
And our custodians as well.
I
Couldn't
will
make it without you.
Thank you. I will leave you with this one thought. You should probably buy your turkeys now rather than until later. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy, very much.
Any, Cindy, before you go, let me see if anybody has any questions, follow-ups. Go ahead, Mrs. Bruno.
I think I would just say that the numbers say it all, in that kids can't learn if they're hungry, and the increase in kids that are taking advantage of the food that's offered and that you guys work so hard to make available, is we can't do anything without that. So thank you to you and your team.
Thank you. It does worry me. I'm thrilled. In all my years here, we've never served as many meals. And I know that all students are now receiving free meals, but it's amazing that they are participating and, learning not on an empty stomach. There are a few other concerns that keep me awake at night, especially with the menu changes, and that has to do with students with allergies. I mean, I know that Mrs. Mysteria has a child that we provide gluten-free meals for. Sometimes we can't even get the gluten-free buns, but my staff will go to Stop and Shop and buy them. That's how wonderful they are,
Yes.
to make sure that everybody eats. So, thank you.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, Mrs. Brooks, I think you have run an outstanding program over the past 32 years. I know that many school districts outsource the food nutrition services program to contract vendors. You've done an extraordinary job in running this program. Thank you.
Thank you. I love my job. I love this district, and it's my second home.
And I can always remember when we did the sister school grants that the children from Mansonia would come and you would hear them comment about, boy, this food's better. This food's better than the food we're getting over there, in Ansonia. And hopefully nobody from Ansonia is here. But that was,
Well, that was Dominic.
that's what the kids would say. Yep.
That was Dominic, may he rest in peace. But you also mentioned another one of you did, Tony Preston. So I remember he yelled at me.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
No, that's the first time I ever heard you criticize Ansonia.
That's not true, Mr. Okay, moving along now, school improvement plans, and I see number one is Chatfield or Preston Elementary School.
What we would like to say with these school improvement plans, our four principals can come up here, but basically what we would like to do in January is come back and give the mid-year progress updates of what they're doing specifically. Tonight, we wanted to submit this information and show you the goals specifically, and we want to really look at the data deeply with looking at the winter assessments. Cynthia, you want to say anything? You've worked with these for several years, and we'll talk about how these are going to align with the district goals and superintendent associate goals. And the main goal, of course, is student achievement, period. And looking at the data and the rigor and surviving this past 17 and 18 months now and really getting the rigor, the emphasis on mathematics. When you look at any school district, you'll find mathematics is usually the area of where the gap needs to really close. We want to really concentrate specifically on the data and name and claim. Just very quickly, anything you want to say?
No, but you'll see
Yeah.
these are again condensed So, you know, it's a little muddy because we don't have growth data from last year to compare to. Students took many of the assessments in the spring last year, but they did not take them the spring before. So any summative assessments, we don't have growth data to compare to, we have achievement data. So it is a little bit different in that respect. So the data charts at the end are maybe a little bit muddy. You see the common through lines that all 4 buildings talk to each other often, and they're really working on social emotional learning in a variety of ways, trying to figure out the best way to navigate that with the individual populations and resources that they have. But you can also see that the administrators, and these were shaped by teachers, the teachers that serve on the committees, they are not willing to give up on academics, and they're really trying to push in their plans growth and achievement. So that's the part that they're trying to get started so that they can report back to in January.
We thought in January we could have a complete detailed, basically, a true data analysis and a breakdown, and really let each principal do specific and assistant principal updates. If that's okay, I just really want to emphasize that everybody has all hands on deck about student performance and student success. We want to look here at 5-year data. I want to go back and look at everything, look at what went well a few years ago, what's not going well, closing the gap, looking at mathematics specifically, looking at literacy, and looking specifically with how many kids, for example, with pre-algebra in the middle school level, Mr. Freud, Mr. Lucky, looking specifically at SAT scores, looking specifically at AP scores. We're gonna totally disaggregate every aspect and look at the 5-year trend. We'll look at the 18 months, and then how many kids specifically are in that lower quartile, and what are we doing from one end of the spectrum to the other, from special ed all the way to the most gifted. These kids and the teachers, administration, and all other staff are capable. There's unlimited potential here. And it takes, again, the support, it takes the resources, it takes the Board of Ed, but first and foremost, it takes the leadership. And just looking at the trend, and what was the superintendent's expectations? And it starts right here at this seat that I'm held accountable. Everybody's held accountable in regards to raising the overall student achievement with this district. This district has the capability of having blue ribbon schools. We should have, again, we've had 2 students commended here tonight for National Merit Finalists. We can have even more. And we've got to name and claim each and every child. Every child deserves the best education that we can give them. But we've got to move past the situation with COVID, and we've got to move forward. But it's going to take everybody, and it's going to take the support of everybody. And I know one Board of Education member today made a wonderful comment to Mrs. Tensa and myself. What can the Board of Education do to help support the schools, the principals, the teachers, all staff members, the instructional paraprofessionals? What can we do to take this school? It's already good, it's very good, let's go to great. So what can we do to make this be truly a national premier district? And Seymour, Connecticut is capable of going there. So thank you for the one comment I had today and really studying the data and being aware, because when you look across all schools throughout, mathematics seems to be the biggest gap. I don't care what state, what school district, and what are we going to do to close that gap?
Okay. What are we doing next?
Okay, next very quickly is superintendent goals.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, she may have a question.
Thank you. I just have to ask, I noticed one of the school improvement plans trends scores back to 2017. I think that would be really, really beneficial for all of us to see, so that we can see where we're making progress, pre-COVID, and then where are we after post-COVID? So that would be awesome if they could all include data back to 2017.
That's exactly right.
Thank you.
That's awesome, because you gotta look at 5-year span.
Yeah, I think
Go ahead.
I would just recommend that the board members, if you have the time to review some of the numbers, because I spent some time going through it and I was very surprised by some of the numbers and how low they were. So I think as a board, we just need to have some dedicated time to talk about this and what we can do to help improve. But it was very eye-opening to review some of this data. So thank you for sharing it.
Yeah.
And just one more real quick, Mrs. Tenz, I know in the past you've also provided us with national baseline data. So if there's a way that we could see a national 5-year trend line, just to understand if those decreases are
Especially
nationwide, which I expect they are, but it would still be kind of great
right,
to
with
see.
NWA, that's good.
And smarter, yeah.
And then looking at the state with the smarter
SAT.
balanced
Yep, that's great.
assessments,
Thank
and then looking also at SAT
Yeah.
as well on the high school perspective and the AP scores. Are they going up? They're going backwards? What's happening?
Yeah.
I was pleased to hear that we do have 2 high school students that are taking BC Calculus online, thanks to the great direction of Kathy, right? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so then we're on H now then.
Yes. Superintendent goals, if you look at the goal setting form, I did something that probably you've not seen done, possibly in a lot of places. The coordination and support of the superintendent goals and the associate superintendent goals. And Mrs. Tenza and I worked, and I told her about the underlying support framework, and we worked together, and we're very proud. If you'll look under mine and hers as well, under educational leadership and the goals, and as well as organizational management, community and Board of Education relations, and then mine specifically is personal and professional qualities. And something too that I want you to be aware of is my 100-day entry plan that I presented to you back on before you decided on the superintendency in your last decision. This entry plan was pretty, how might I say, pretty demanding, I guess. As Jim would say on the board, he said, I'm not sure you can accomplish all this, Dr. Compton, in 100 days. He was very specific, and he was right on several things. But there's a lot of this 100-day plan that correlates with the goals. Another thing that we must really focus on in reviewing the old district strategic plan from 2018, we want to move forward with a new embellished strategic plan. We want to look at profile of a graduate, and there's several things that we want to do. So I just wanted to lay that out tonight just to show you. And also, in regards, you can pass this around. Not sure how much this has been emphasized, but in regards with Connecticut and the superintendent's evaluation process, in January, I'll be giving you a thorough update of what I've accomplished from August on. So will Mrs. Tensa. And also we'll be working with the principals and their goals and how it all correlates together. And our vice principals and special ed director. We're all in this together, what the district goals are, the school goals, and then when you all have your retreat, you'll discuss the board goals and what you would like to see. But I'm not sure the last time you've seen this, but this is the instrument in which you evaluate me on and the importance of it. It's a good instrument. Many years ago, I was involved in writing standards for Kentucky and also was involved in New Jersey with standards-based evaluation. Connecticut does a good job. They're outstanding in their areas as well, a lot of similarities. So I just wanted to make sure that you had this. I'll also send it by email. But sometimes it's just good to look at a hand copy and say, hey, this is how we evaluate Dr. Compton. So there'll be more updates. Mr. Stramella and I have talked about this process and what he expected, and it's also spelled out in my contract. So it's holding me accountable and the rest of us are accountable as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions, people? Okay. This is something we've been looking for a while, in my opinion. Okay, going on now to the chairman's comment. I believe, if people have not heard already, that Mrs. Bruno was reelected, Mr. Champagne was reelected, and one of our new members, Shannon Levy, is here. She was elected last night. I was reelected, and Stefan Bohuniak is another new member. So we have two new members that will be at our December meeting. And I know that Mrs. Dragonis is planning the time when we get sworn in, and then we will be officially in December. And I guess that's all for me. Any board members, comments, wishes to comment? Yes, Ms. Arnold.
I just want to say thank you for everyone who won a seat last night, but more importantly, I wanted to give a shout out. I know they are not here because they're home studying, but I really felt compelled to say something directly to both Katie and Michaela. When we talk about 34,000 students achieving something, that sounds like a really big number, right? We're used to one gold medalist, one silver medalist, but 34,000 is less than 1% of their age cohort. So to have achieved what they achieved amidst a pandemic, I just think is amazing. And I want to tell both of them that you put that on your resume and you keep it on your resume until someone says, don't you think you're too old for that? And then maybe get another job until someone appreciates it. Because it's a phenomenal achievement. So nobody should let that 34,000 number think, oh, well, that's a lot of students. It's less than 1% of their grade cohort, and kudos to both of them here. It's amazing. Congratulations to you. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Any other board members wishing to make a comment or comments? Yes, Mrs.
I have
Bruno.
two unrelated things I want to comment on. The first one is Mr. Boyle is very excited to see an advertisement for peers in the preschool program. You know, early intervention and preschool education is my wheelhouse, and when we talk about providing kids with a quality educational experience and closing gaps, that's the best way to do it. So I was very happy to see that.
And I will say, Dr. Poganowski, I want to give credit to for that.
Thank
Because
you.
that was something that she took on, like, the second day she was here.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. And then in our theme of gratitude, I just wanted to let you know that I am going to be sending a thank you to the Oxford school system. I attended the girls' soccer game last Wednesday night. It was senior night for Oxford, and they also presented our Seymour seniors with flowers. And I thought that was such a great show of sportsmanship and grace, so I wanted to recognize that.
Okay. Do we have an update on the volleyball by chance, Mr. Fine?
I have no service.
What was that?
We have no service.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could think of a newly departed administrator who used to always complain about this building. Yep. Okay. Superintendent's report, Dr. Compton.
I'll be
Okay.
brief.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Spinello, if I may,
Yes?
I would like to echo Kristen's compliments to the individual, the students who were recognized this evening. I think that's terrific. Congratulations, Kristen, to you and your daughter. I would also like to suggest that the Board of Education and the Board of Selectmen consider naming an area of one of the schools or a field in honor and memory of Bob Lang, who we recognized some weeks ago after he passed away. He is an icon in this community, and I think that consideration should be given to that. So I would ask the board members here to think about an area, one of the schools, or a field, and I'm going to ask the same of the Board of Selectmen when I sit at our first meeting in December. I don't know if anyone has any comment about that.
I think it's a great idea, Mr. Sink, and I would love to help you with that. I think they do have one field over by over by the, yeah.
George
There is-
Humble.
George
Humble Field, there's
The
a
softball
field,
field is
there's a
about
softball field at the lot line there. But I think Mr. Stanik's indicating a school
Right.
property versus a town property, which I think you're leaning for, correct?
George Hummel Field is privately.
That's private.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a private organization. But I agree, that's what I'm talking about.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Public school related.
Yeah. Any other board member wishes to make a comment? I skip, go ahead, Jay.
Sorry. I would just like to echo many of the sentiments that people mentioned today about the service of Mr. Stanek and Mr. Kubik. I'll start with Mr. Kubik. Mr. Kubik and I had the opportunity to serve on 2 building committees together, 2 out of 4, so I'm halfway there. in the building. But,
You're half my age. So you got time.
So I got time. So, but I have had the opportunity to share many years with Mr. Kubik, and I'm glad to see, I'm going to put some words in his mouth. I think he's seen me grow from a little guy to a bigger person.
Absolutely.
And it has been an honor for me, and I have really enjoyed working alongside you of those many years on the building committees. And your wisdom and expertise in buildings is something that I do admire, because when you went to those meetings, somebody mentioned earlier today that he always does his homework. When you sat at those building committee meetings and they talked about screws or specifications or things that I didn't even know what they were saying, Mr. Kubik knew what was going on. And, in much more specifics. Some of the words, I might have leaned over to him a couple times and said, what does that mean? Or what kind of product is that? And he was always there to guide us. So I really appreciate your expertise and your guidance over the years, and it's been my pleasure.
Thank you, Jay.
On Mr. Stanek's side here, I have to go a little bit further back to when I was in high school. I got to meet Mr. Stanek through Mrs. Stanek. She was my teacher, and I was honored to have her, and I probably owe much of my teaching to her, being a teacher myself, and the inspiration that she gave me. But I remember being in Holy Rosary Church, I think it was, and Mr. Stanek picked me up at Seymour High School, and we went to the funeral of Mrs. Cabeza. And I remember being there with you and seeing that matriarch of the town and honoring her and saying to myself, wow, what a legacy. And if Tina was here today, she would be quite impressed with all that you have done. I know she was very fond of you when I served with her, I took her spot, I think it was on the team board a couple years after. And what you have done to the town is just amazing to me. I hope that I could bring to the town in my later years as much as you have brought in my half the time. When they talked about years of service, 32. Oh, wow. That's amazing. I mean, I'm only 36, so. I was only 4 years old when you started. I'm quite impressed. But it has been my pleasure to sit here. I'm not sure how many other people you've been able to mentor, from student rep to board member, but it has been my honor, and I thank you for all that you've done for us as board members, for the students here, and for the district. So thank you.
Well, thank you for your kind words. And Jay, I remember you running around on the soccer field when you were probably 8 or 9 years old. And I remember you as a student rep here at the board table. And I remember yourself getting in trouble with the administration. Some comments you made one night.
Or some other time in a non-meeting.
Notwithstanding that, one time, you did a great job as a student rep, and you formed the idea that you wanted to be a member of this board, and I heard about that for many years, and then you finally took the step and ran for this board. Thank you.
And Jay, maybe you're not quite half my age.
Any other board member comments? Okay. Superintendent's report.
We're going to be very short. I'd like for Mrs. Tenza to talk just a minute about the Professional Development Day Yesterday, what a great day it was. I want to say a few comments. What a great job our administration and our staff did.
And that's really what I would say is that we worked very hard to try to create a day where teachers had time to work on things and learn about things that they wanted to work on and learn about. And it ranged from some work in the morning at the elementary level on their new math program. The high school had some safety training in the afternoon, and in the morning they were able to spend time really trying to revamp their midterm exams, because our students, as you know, are going to be in very different places in January than they have in the past. And so they were excited to work in departments. Our middle school worked, they kind of jigsawed between department levels and grade levels and really explored some new resources that they have with Lexia reading. Everybody really had opportunities to do things in groups, and then they each had at least one 90-minute block. We call it differentiated inquiry, where each individual staff member is allowed to just write down something that they really want to pursue on their own, and the administrators, just review it and approve it. And it really, everywhere we went, we had 3 elementary teachers lead some writing workshop sessions, and this entire place was
Busy.
making and cutting and gluing, and it was the energy. They were so happy to be together and appreciative of the beautiful food that Cindy had put out for them. Busy day.
The only other thing I'd like to add, 2 or 3 comments. I just want to say thank you to our administrative team that's here tonight, our principals, our assistant principals, and our director of special services, and Vonda. It truly takes a team, and it takes a great team to be a great team and working together. Also, I want to say a special thank you to our central office staff. They've been tremendous with not having a business manager and during the times of the 6-month period of just contracting out, that they've truly been a team working together, picking up the slack. And I'd just like to say a special thank you also to Pat Bull, specifically with the bus driver shortage. You know that hopefully next week we are to get 1 new bus driver, and then we're hoping then in the first week of December to get 2 more. So that's our situation. I want to say a special thank you to First Select Woman Anne Marie for Tuesday, October 19th, and inviting me to the Selectmen's Town meeting. I appreciate that. I thought it was a wonderful meeting. Our board chair attended with me. I also want to say thank you for getting the opportunity to judge with Truck or Treat on that Saturday evening. The Sunday evening. It was really great. Just in regards with the children and being able to be there. It turned out really great. Also, Fred Stanek was a part of that, and you too. So it was wonderful. I want to mention too, earlier it was all on Saturday, but the Saturday 75th anniversary was quite a celebration to see the decades. It was wonderful to meet the football player back in 1946. And just being there and seeing the former coaches, and of course the one that's a University of Kentucky graduate like me. It's pretty special as well. But I'd just like to say it was a great day, and we had several of our board members there, and we just really enjoyed being together and supporting the Seymour football program 75 years. I want to mention as well, we did a walkthrough on Wednesday, October the 27th. Again, our first select woman was present with us, and Tim Connors and several of our board members. We'll be taking a tour for the other 3. We want to come back and present to the board a possible solution or maybe a plan, which might be the best wing for you to consider where we're to go. We want to come back and present to you a plan and just see what option you think is best. But our plans, as we all know, is to relocate to a certain location in Seymour High School. As I tell Mr. Freud, we're going to be his extended roommates in one part of the annex of the high school. So we're all going to work together, and it'll work out. So I just want to again say a special thank you. Tonight's a real celebration of 2 board members who have contributed so much to the Seymour Public Schools and made a difference and put kids first. And you as a board are putting children first. So thank you. That's all I'm going to say. I've talked way too much tonight.
Okay, any questions for the superintendent? And I got a nice surprise out of the staff development day. I was able to spend time with 2 grandkids the whole day without anybody else.
Oh.
It was nice. Okay, we have the information next there for you, from the schools, the staff hirings, some new coaches, some of the resignations.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time, but I believe so. We do have 2 hirings to add, I think, under information.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's under
So I'd like
staff
to-
hiring.
I'd like to make a motion to add to the agenda under staff hiring, the hiring of teacher Nicholas Proscalone as the assistant coach, or excuse me, I think I have to, do I have to make a motion to add to the agenda first?
Agenda.
Yes, perfect, yep. I'd like to make a motion to add to the agenda under staff hiring.
Okay, who seconds the motion to add? Ms. Harmon does. All in favor of adding to the agenda? Passes unanimously, 8-0. Okay, now you can make your motion if you would like.
I'd like to make a motion to add, well, to add to the agenda the teacher.
No, we already did that. You need to add the hirings, is what you're saying, correct?
Right, I'm sorry.
Yes.
So I'd like to add the hiring of teacher Nicholas Proscalone as assistant coach for Seymour High School girls basketball. And, well, that's why I was gonna ask, because it's just under information, so we don't have to necessarily vote on it. We're just adding it under information.
Yes, he's a teacher, so yes.
He's already a teacher.
Okay, all right. Okay. Go ahead, finish reading them. Okay. Because they're not here.
Right, so the next one I have to add as
Yes.
regular. We have to add separately, right, because we have to vote on it.
Yes.
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 So I'd like to make a motion to add to the agenda the hiring of Janine Weaver and Christina Tassinelli as co-assistant coaches in a split position for the Seymour High School freshman girls basketball team.
Second.
Let's add to the agenda. All those in favor to add this to the agenda, please? Okay, passes unanimously. Now you can make a motion to officially hire them.
I'd like to make a motion to hire Janine Weaver and Christina Tassinelli as co-assistant coaches in a split position for the Seymour High School freshman girls basketball team.
Okay, can we combine that, Mr. Stanek, or should we do them separately? As a parliamentarian, I'm gonna miss that, or somebody will miss that.
Generally, the votes are separate.
Okay. So if you could withdraw that and do them separately, please.
I'm withdrawing my, because the first one we didn't, I'm confused.
I move to amend the motion to remove Christina Tassinelli.
You mean people separately?
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
I wasn't clear.
Yes.
Instead of going all the way.
Very good. I amend my motion.
No, he amended the motion.
No, we didn't.
Okay, you second the amendment to the motion. Okay, all in favor of the amended motion? Passes unanimous. Okay, now we need to do the main motion as amended. Correct.
I make a motion to.
No.
No.
Oh, we're just voting.
We're just
Discussion
voting on
vote.
it. We're voting on the amended motion. All those in favor of the amended motion? Pete? Okay, passes unanimously. Okay.
For the, I'm trying to.
I have the tape.
You got the tape.
You got the next one?
The next one?
So, I'd like to
He
make.
did Christine.
No.
No, he didn't.
I moved to,
Yes,
Remove. So I'd like to make a motion to hire Christina Tassinelli as co-assistant coach in a split position for Seymour High School freshman girls basketball.
second.
All right. Any discussion needed? Everyone saw the information. All in favor? Passes unanimously. Okay, Jake?
Don't you dare, Fred.
Okay. So it looks like we are ready to Okay, second public comment, portion of the meeting. Anybody from the public wishing to make a comment? Anybody from the public wishing to make a comment? Anybody from the public wishing to make a comment? Hearing none, second public comment is closed. Okay, motion?
No? Why don't we have the two of these fine men send us off?
I agree.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second that motion?
Okay, motion made by Mr. Stanek to adjourn, seconded by Mr. Cooney. Very good, all in favor? Meeting is officially adjourned by 2